Missing Pieces Growing Through Grief. So our first speaker is Craig.
Hi everybody, I'm Craig. I'm an addict.
Hey, Craig.
My clean date is August the 3rd of 2016. I have a sponsor. His name is Marvin G. and a home group called the Boondock Saints in Vanderbilt, Tennessee. I always introduce myself that way when I speak, mostly because my sponsor had told me that I should do that, but also because those are the things that I need to stay clean and happy at the same time. This is going to be a little different than most of the time I've shared. Sharing on grief is a... Hey. Hello. All right. Sharing on grief it's a hard place for me, and I think it is probably for a lot of people. I used for a lot of years over grief. I grew up in like a really good household. Oh, Marvin. Sorry. I grew up in a really good, loving household. I was really lucky in that. I had both my parents there, siblings. We're middle class. Things were really good. But I never, like a lot of us probably, I never quite fit in anywhere. I didn't have a lot of friends. And I finally, I really didn't have any friends until about middle school. And I went to this church camp in middle school. And I met a couple of people. And, you get those cool bonding experiences when you're off at camp. And for like the first time in my life, I'd made a friend. And we like stayed in touch. She lived like across the city. I lived in Arizona, and she lived across the valley from me. And we'd stayed in touch, and we would talk every weekend, every night. And I was going to school, and this was like a year after Columbine had happened. And I was going to school, getting beat up and bullied every day, going home convincing myself like not to go and turn around and shoot everybody in my fucking school. And she was the one convincing me to do that for a long time. And really, like, giving me some kind of strength, some kind of support system to show that, like, I always thought, like, my parents had to love me. Like, that's, like, a requirement of being a parent. My brothers had to like me enough. They were around. But she was, like, the first person in my life who had chosen to have me in her life and had made a conscious effort to do that. And she saved me from making a whole lot of really, really bad decisions. And about a year after we had met, and she was hit by a car on her way to school. A guy fell asleep at the wheel at a red light. Somebody thought it was a good idea to go knock on his window, and he tore across the parking lot up onto the sidewalk where she was waiting for the bus and killed her. And when I was like 12 or 13 years old, and something like that happens to you, or happens to someone and it's a really hard thing to process, because there is no, like, it's just not fair. Like, life is not fair, and that is not something that you get to learn when you're a kid. Like, when you're a kid, like, this happens, then this happens, and this happens, and you're taught, like, by movies and friends and family and in church that like, if you do good things happen to you. And it was the first time in my life that I saw that it didn't matter really what you did. Like, sometimes life is just not fucking fair. But it was impossible for me to register that. And I remember sitting through her funeral. The guy who hit her was at her funeral. And I stayed mad about this for years. He didn't lose his driver's license. He didn't go to jail. He didn't, and all I wanted was somewhere to take all of my anger and put it on somebody else, And there was plenty of blame. Now that I've gotten older and I've made some similar mistakes myself, I could only imagine the amount of times that I could have run across a street and run somebody over and taken their life and done that same exact thing to somebody else. But pretty quickly after that, there's a thousand reasons why I started using. But that was a big one. I also had my first suicide attempt about 6 months after that. My first inpatient hospitalization in 8th grade. trying to cope because like there was just no way for me to successfully bounce back from the idea that like this can just happen, and like you're everybody talks about it, and I've heard this a lot. It gets worse, but like grief is an expression of love that you can't put back out there anymore, and I didn't know how to handle it. Honestly, like to this day, it's not something I can give anybody an answer to. Like I don't fucking know. I go through the motions and I try to talk to people, but sadly, that's also not where the story ends. And like I used for a lot of years after that, probably like 14 to I don't know, whenever the hell that was, 8 years ago, and I lost a lot of people using. I think some part of me never really let me get that close to anyone like that again. Uh, I had to find some way to like put a guard around myself because I don't know if I was capable, at least at that time, of surviving again something like that. There's plenty of other things that affected me and bothered me, but that like has stuck with me, and I still like I have her picture, and it comes up in like a box every once in a while, and I find it, and I kind of put it away, and but I've been able to like begin to grow through those things thanks to having a program and having a network of people that are here and like support me, and step work has helped me a lot. Thing with grief is like that I have learned is like grief just takes fucking time, a lot of time sometimes. And about a year, okay, so I got clean in 2016. I did what everybody told me not to do, and I met a girl, and I got this girl pregnant. We dated, banged for like 6 months. She started using again. I bailed out in some sort of brief moment of inspiration that it was a good idea probably not to follow her in that path. We broke up, and then like 3 weeks later she tells me she's pregnant. Meanwhile, she's still using. I don't really blame her for what happened here, but what is today? The 29th? 7 years and 4 days ago, I lost that baby. And that, I ignored that one. So I'd spent, like she was using. Some large part of me just expected it not to be a thing. Like we were not going to have this baby. It was not going to exist. Baby was like 2.5 weeks from its due date. And it just didn't happen. And I watched her deliver that baby, and I saw him dead in her arms. And I was like a little over a year clean at this point, and I did not have any idea what to do, like what to say. And I was lucky in the fact that like my parents are in recovery, I had friends in recovery, like people working solid programs, and the only thing that I knew to do at that time was just to like call some people, stay as close to my parents as I could, and not like lose supervision, because like even now I would not blame somebody else for going back out over something like that. But I had this guy that I'd met in a meeting once, and he told me that like right at around his year clean, his son had a glass door in the garage fall on him, and it killed him. And he talked to me about this process that he went through. And that guy had been clean for 60 something years. He was one of the early ones. And he talked to me about like the way that God could kind of start to fill that hole, and how step work was able to help him process a lot of the things that he had tied to his kid, and how understanding that like the fact that we don't control everything does not necessarily mean that God is at fault for everything, and that there's something wrong with the situation, that like the world is unfair because God is unfair, because he told me that wasn't true, and I had to learn how to accept that situation, because otherwise I would never trust God and I would never survive something like this, you know? And I don't know how I survived this. I think I went numb for like 6 months, probably. I still don't talk about him a lot. It's something that comes up on occasion. And I went to some meetings early on, and I told people that I had lost my baby, and that I didn't know how I felt about it, and I didn't know if I was mad, if I was sad, if I was going to get high again, if I was going to... I didn't know what to do. I was so lost. And I had 1,000 people tell me 1,000 different things, and the one thing that I knew was like nobody could tell me how I had to deal with this. Nobody could tell me when I could talk about it. Nobody could tell me when I could not talk about it. I had to learn how I needed to pace myself in this, or like it was going to kill me. And still sometimes it feels like it's going to. And I think that's just kind of how grief is. I read this thing one time, and it was talking about how grief is like a shipwreck, right? And you're like out on sea, and a storm comes, and the ship crashes, and you fall into the ocean, and there's a storm, and the waves are hitting you, and they're smacking you, and you just feel like you're going to drown, like you know you're going to die. And then you find like a little, like a podium, like a little piece of the boat, and you hang on. And you're still getting hit, and you're still going to die. And you can barely breathe. You can't, like, keep a breath. And slowly, over time, you drift away, and the storm drifts out. You still get hit by the waves. You're still going under. You're still, like, drowning. And that, like, that feeling of drowning is okay, because again, that shows like the depth of our love, right? And that like if you can just hold on to that, like eventually you'll hit the surface again and you'll breathe. And eventually like it can get to a place where like it doesn't happen often. It's just like some random thing that just reminds you, just like briefly, like when we first started talking about having this workshop with the committee, and it brings that up, like we're going to have a conversation about grief, and it was just like, I feel that, I didn't even bring up speaking at this workshop, and I thought about it, and I was talking to somebody else on the committee, and it was just like, I need to talk, and it's been a long time and taken me a lot of time. You can ask my sponsor. I don't talk about this much, and this has been one of the hardest things I've ever experienced in my life, but I've been able to do it clean. And all of that shit, like, using wouldn't have made it better, and, like, yeah, all of those things are fucking true. But, like, some days they just didn't matter. But what mattered is, like, I had tools that allowed me to keep myself alive and gave me a reason to keep on going through all of this, And I had people like Marvin that at the drop of a hat, he would be there, and anytime I've suffered, and this goes for tons of people from my home groups, Narcotics Anonymous saved my life in this. More than they did from, like, keeping me clean. They gave me a solution, but, like, like, drugs, for me, were not my fucking problem. Like, my problem is that I do not know how to live life, like, on life's terms, and this is the shittiest of fucking life's terms. There is no worse than losing someone that you love. Someone, like, who is part of your heart, And there's no easy answer to grief. There's no, like, A, B, C, you do this, and this, and it gets better. I work in long-term care now, and I've kind of been around it my whole life. You know, I worked for a nursing home, palliative care. My parents have worked in nursing homes my whole life, and I've been surrounded by death. My mom made it like a big goal because she always was scared to death of funerals. So, like, as soon as, like, the first funeral that happened when I was like 4 years old, she took me to a funeral. And thinking back, it was a funeral for a baby. So the first dead body I ever saw was a baby. Thank God my mom did that. Although it's a little bit morbid, you know, like everything kind of does happen for a reason. And I don't know if I was taught very young that death is a very, very natural thing. Like it's just part of life. Like with life comes death, and I've watched people and I've helped people like see that, and it helps me today. Like it helps me in my job. It helps me with my friends and my family. Like thank God that I can turn this into something that is useful, and the like arguments. Well, maybe God did this to stop him from having a using mother. Like, I don't think any of that shit is true. Honestly, like, don't get me wrong, like, God is everything or God is nothing, but, like, God doesn't make these decisions. Like, bad things fucking happen sometimes. And I had to figure that out. I don't really know what else I've got to say about it. All I know is if you are grieving and if you have lost someone, find someone that will listen when you're ready to talk, will not make you talk if you're not, and just like fucking hang on, because it gets better. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Craig. Our next speaker is Randy.
I'm Randy. I'm a drug addict. Glad to be clean. Glad to be above ground. VRC 42. Are you psyched up? Are you grateful to be clean? I know we're talking about grief, but I kind of want to start out on a good note, man. Are you fired up about being clean? Yeah. Help me out here a little bit. I need that. Helps me get going, you know. So this week, it's a good week for me. Thanksgiving week. This week, I just celebrated 30 years clean. I went to a party in 1970. I woke up in November of 1994. That's a true story. I have decades of my life that I can't even remember. I got to watch what I say in here because my sponsor's in the room and I can't lie very well. As an addict, we stand stuff far past its expiration date. I don't know if you can relate to that or not, but I do on everything. I was so grateful that they thought about me when they wanted me to share on grief. My personal grief. It started out in 1980 with my father dying, and that set me into a tailspin of using. I started drinking and drugging and running as hard as I could, and been to treatment many, many times. It's not how many times you go back out, it's what you do when you come back. And I relapsed. I'm not the one white key tagger, by the way. I'm the relapsed. I had enough white key tags to start my own meeting. I came in here and I thought all I was going to have to do is just stay clean. And I found out that there's a lot more to recovery than just staying clean. And over the past few years, I've lost a lot of people. I've lost 3 sponsors. My sponsors over are getting nervous now. I've lost 3 sponsors over the years that I've been here, and it's all been from natural causes. The last sponsor that I lost, his name was Bob Kay, and he started NA in Knoxville. His picture's on the wall down at the gateway. That was my sponsor. I want to tell you a little thing about sponsorship right quick, what that means to me, how important sponsorship is. When you ask somebody, or somebody asks you to sponsor them, it's your responsibility to be there for them. And it's till the day they die, and or you die. I don't leave my sponsor's side. My sponsor don't look for me to stay clean today. He expects me to stay clean. You know, I get this call, my sponsor, he had open heart surgery. And before that, he was on chemo. He had cancer. And then he had a heart attack. And he was still coming to meetings, walking up on a walker, coming into the rooms of NA on a walker. And they had a lift that lifted him up, and we carried him into the meeting. Still sick. I get this call, and they told me that he was eating a ham sandwich, and he choked on a ham sandwich and died. And I thought, well, he's done been through this cancer, and he's done been through this heart attack. This is my sponsor we're talking about here. This is your ride or die person. And I had to go speak at his funeral. There is no pain. I went into the bathroom and started dry heaving over the top of the toilet. The first thing I'd done before the next 24 hours was up, the most important thing I'd done was get another sponsor right away. I didn't even wait. What they say, jumping out of an airplane, you jump out of an airplane without a parachute, something's going to happen. You come into this program, you ain't got a sponsor, something's going to happen. I was afraid not to have a sponsor. And it hurt me bad, man. And I didn't think I was going to get through it. And all I could hear in the back of my mind is something he always told me. Recovery is about doing what you don't want to do, regardless of how you feel. And being uncomfortable in recovery is okay. See, I'm not afraid of dying if I go back out there. I'm afraid I'll live. Can you understand that? I truly do believe when I walked out of active addiction, I walked out of the gates of hell. I didn't start living until I walked into the rooms of NA. Never alone, never again is what it stood for me. And listening to my sponsor was very important. I went through a whole lot of stuff, and too damn much coffee, for one thing. I might pick up another white key tag. I want to get to the exact nature of my grief so you can really know how Randy ticks. Okay? So, the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life is when I lost my mother. If you've got your mother here, if your mother's still living or your father's still living, you better love them while you can. So my mom comes down with dementia. And in this process, I'm getting real sick, and I'm trying to work, and I'm trying to take care of her. And I get real sick, and I go in to see the doctor for a headache, and they told me I'd had a stroke because I was grieving so hard because I didn't know how to help her. You know, she would crap all over the walls, and she was going to the bathroom, and I'd have to go in there and try to wipe it up, and I'd get sick trying to take care of her. I didn't know what to do. I'd never been here in recovery before. I didn't even want to think about using. Using even wasn't on the table. I just didn't want to feel. And she didn't know who I was, man. And I went over to my sister's house. She got so mad at me, she left my house. I called my sponsor, and I told my sponsor, I said, I've had a stroke. I don't know how to take care of my mom. My sponsor told me that I'm going to have to let somebody else take care of her, because if I don't, I'm going to die. That was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, was told my mother that I couldn't take care of her anymore. And my sister come and got her, and they come with all my family, me just coming off a stroke, laying in my bed, calling my sponsor every day, scared to death, didn't know what to do. And they come in and just raid the house and take everything out of the house. You know what he said to me? He said, that's none of your business. He said, you get in your car and you leave. You drive to the mountains. And I did. And my mom stopped at the end of the sidewalk and started crying. She said, I don't want to leave. It hurt so bad, man. I can't tell you how bad it hurt. Just to see, I can still see her crying out, because just months before that, me and her was planting flowers. She was down on her hands and knees helping me plant flowers out in front of the house, man. Real men cry. I'd rather cry in here than cry at the dope man's house. And I walked in over my sister's. And my sponsor had already lost his mother. So he had experience in this. And I'm calling Tim. I'm calling William. I'm calling all my support group. And I'm calling everybody saying, man, I'm calling Reverend Rock. I'm calling everybody. Calling Curtis. I don't know what to do. I'm going to tell you where I got my greatest power from. I didn't realize it was there until I asked for it. I had no choice. They says, I don't know where it says it in the basic text. I'm not a basic text thumper. I don't carry my basic text to the meeting. My sponsor would kick my ass if I did. It says there'll come a point in time where either God or your sponsor or somebody, you're going to have to stay clean on your own. I walked in to my sister's house and I looked down at my mom and I could tell that she had stopped breathing. And I looked over at my sister and I told her she's gone. And the first thing that I did was just turn around and walk out the door and go to the 1 o'clock meeting over in Powell. And then I went into the sanctuary and got down on my hands and knees and cried out to God, I don't understand you right now. You know, I didn't think I was going to use, but I didn't think I was going to live either. I didn't want to be around people. People was calling me left and right. Are you okay? You know what you addicts are. Whenever something happens, your ass shows up at the door. Fucking ringing that phone off the hook. Are you okay? In the meantime, I've lost my niece from an overdose. They found her in a tent where she had got a hold of her boyfriend's dope that died the day before, and she took it and she died the next day. And then my mother had to hear that, and it was tough watching my mother cry over her niece, her baby. We go through some shit around here, man. We go through some shit. I got on my knees and started praying. What have I done since this has happened? Well, this is for me. I go to a place on Sunday. It's called church. I go there to feed my soul, to get closer to God. Because I don't know how. It has brought me closer to God since my mother and my sponsor and my best friend died, by the way. He died of alcoholism. He drunk himself to death. 400-something pounds. He couldn't stop drinking Yukon Jack with Mountain Dew. He killed himself drinking. My sister, right when COVID hit, they put her in the hospital. The lady next to her, they came walking in with big oxygen mask on and stuff, walking in her room. I said, there's something going on here. The next few minutes, they wouldn't let us go back in the room because this is when COVID started hitting. My sister passed away. My sister died before my mother. And I think the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life was when they backed that hearse up to that gravesite. When they all lined up, the pallbearers lined up to carry my mom off to that casket, or to the grave. I've been through some shit in my life, but I have never felt that much excruciating pain in my life. I didn't want to use, didn't even think about using. I came to meetings, I prayed, I came to meetings, I prayed, I talked about it, and I come into the meetings and start crying and screaming and kicking, telling everybody how I felt. I know today you can't replace a feeling with a feeling. The good thing about recovery is you get to feel your feelings. The bad thing about recovery is you get to feel your feelings. If you don't deal with what you're going through at the time that you're going through it, it'll come back around full circle and bite you on the butt. And that's why they tell you to face your fears and live your dreams. And no matter what, don't pick up. So I knew I was either going to face this or I was going to be miserable in life. I can remember calling my sponsor one time. I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to use, but I'm going to kill myself. He said, go ahead and use. I said, well, you're crazy as hell. I'm getting ready to pick up a year here in 90 days. You ain't going to use. You ain't going to kill yourself. Feelings ain't going to kill you. You're going to have to get out of the problem and get into the solution. And that's what this program is all about, getting out of the problem and getting into the solution no matter how you feel. You don't have to like it, you just have to do it. Coming to meetings, I remember when I lost one of my best friends here by the name of Tony C. Come in and said he had a ringing in his ears. He died of cancer. I remember a girl coming into a meeting. We're each other's eyes and ears around here, man. I see this girl coming into the meeting, she's nodding out in the meeting, we tell her you're getting high. You know how you think when you're getting high, you think you're invisible, but you're not. Her boyfriend come in 2 weeks later. She'd been coming to the meeting with her 2 kids. And her boyfriend come in 2 weeks later and told us that she had OD'd, dead. We all went to the funeral. She had 2 little boys about this size. They come to the meetings with her. All the time coming to the meetings with her. And I watched her 2 little boys look back at us, screaming, Mama, Mama, why? As that little boy tried to get up in the casket with her. So you wonder why I share the way I do when I come into a meeting? You have no idea what I've seen since I've been here. And it hurts like hell. How many people got kids? If you can't get clean for yourself, you better get clean for your kids, because if you don't, you're going to raise little drug addicts to grow up to be just like you. You know what an addict hates more than anything in the world? The truth. Some people get it when the dirt hits them in the face. Some people, this guy told me the other day when I was in a meeting, he said, all you do, Randy, is share for effect. You're damn right I share for effect. I can have 98% of my life going good and 2% going bad, and I stick it under the magnifying glass, and I miss the true beauty of what's really going on. What's really going on, I woke up this morning, I didn't have to go cop. And anything after that is a gift. Until you understand that, the program will never work for you. I had 90 days. I went back out and relapsed. I called my sponsor. I said, I relapsed again. I said, I stuck a bunch of stuff up my nose and I drank. He said, you didn't relapse. And I said, how come? He says, you have to have a program in order to relapse, dummy. You're not in the program. You're on the outside looking in. You're either going to be on the inside looking out or the outside looking in. He said, there is no halfway to work this program. He said, you chase this program the same way you chased your dope, with vigilance. He said, don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do. I'm real grateful for those hard-ass assholes that was here when I first got here. Because they told me to sit down, take the cotton out of my ears and stick it in my mouth, sit down and shut the fuck up. My sponsor told me all the thing I knew about the program was on the first page of the basic text. And I hadn't been reading it. So as soon as the meeting was over, I ran home real quick to look and see what was on the first page of the basic text. Not a damn thing. I wish I'd have been reading it so I could have come back with something cool. But he got me. Information without application is void. If you don't apply what you're hearing here and what you're reading, see, the program is right here. We read it at the beginning of every meeting. See, the program will work for anybody. It just won't work for those that don't work it. Don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do. Nowadays, when somebody relapses, they tell you it's okay that you relapse as long as you come back. Fuck you. It ain't okay that you relapsed. It's not okay. Relapse is not okay. If you're working in Narcotics Anonymous, what does it say? Help me if I get this wrong. Rarely relapse. That's right. See, I was addicted to the lifestyle, not just the drugs. Running, gunning as fast as I could. Stuck a 12-gauge shotgun in my mouth, cocked it back. Because I wanted to die. I wasn't happy using, wasn't happy clean, got caught in the middle. Dying would have been a gift. Look at the similarities in here. Don't look at the differences. Look at what we have in common. Don't be so focused on what could run you up out of here. Be focused on what run you the fuck up in here. Some people say, well, you hurt my feelings. I'm glad I hurt your feelings. I don't care about your feelings. I'd rather tell you the truth and go and put flowers on your grave, because I have many, many times. I've done my time here, man. I've done my time. I've seen people come and go. I'm just telling you, you don't have to use today. Relapse starts well before you ever put the drug in your body. It starts with your actions and your attitude. I'm talking to the newcomer. The primary purpose is to carry the message to the addict still suffers. That's the primary purpose. I was at the World Convention. God, you ever seen that many addicts in one damn place? You'd have swore they were smoking crack. Everybody's drinking coffee and smoking 90 cigarettes. Everybody running around jabbering, talking in different languages, what you were talking about. I didn't know how big we were. We're big. We're real big. Don't underestimate the program of Narcotics Anonymous. You know, I love you because you're just like me. You don't have to understand the program in order for it to work for you. You just have to apply it. They told me to keep coming back. They told me to pray. They told me to get a sponsor. They told me to get a service business. They told me to work the steps. They also told me I didn't have to do nothing here. I don't have to do anything. But I came early and put the chairs out and made coffee. I went to 3 meetings a day for 2 years straight. Because I was afraid I was going to get high on the weekend, so I made Monday Night Outreach Group, my home group. It was at an old clubhouse over here in Knoxville. Everybody in there was smoking cigarettes in there, and this room was half as small as this. And there was 200 people in there smoking cigarettes at the same time, drinking coffee, saying, this program works. They're sitting there shaking and shit, looking around and shit, and I was going, these fucking people are fucking crazy. They're getting high. I know they're getting high. And I told them, they said, I asked them when it was going to get better. They said it gets better when you get better. They said, if it don't get any better after 90 days, you can go back out. And I said, well, if it don't get any better, I'm going to go back out. When I picked up 30 days, I thought I was picking up Academy Awards. If you don't appreciate what you got, try to imagine life without it. If I hadn't had 30 days, I'm talking to the newcomer. If I didn't have 30 days, I wouldn't have picked up 60. If I didn't have 90, I wouldn't have picked up 6 months. Let the foundation of your recovery build your recovery, that you got clean. This man right here in this wheelchair has got 90 days, and I'm his sponsor. Right there. He calls me every day because he wants to stay clean. Enthusiasm about the recovery. If you're not going to be enthusiastic about your recovery, your relapse is going to be real enthusiastic about your relapse. Some of us in here are going to have to work harder than most. Then there's me. I got to go to more meetings. I got to talk on the phone more. I got to tell the truth. I like to lie. I could be on the phone with my sponsor for 20 minutes. Right when we're getting ready to get off the phone, he'd say, now that we got past all that bullshit, can we talk about what's really going on? Sponsorship, the ultimate weapon. And God, I want to tell you about God. God don't need your permission to work in your life. If you're sitting in this room, don't let the God thing run you out of here. Don't get so focused on that. I'll tell you what God is a group of drug addicts. That's what God is. That's what it was to me when I first got here, was a group of drug addicts. Because I didn't have no higher power when I got here, man. The group was my higher power. If I hadn't had you all, I would have went back out. I would have died. You know, I highly urge you to dig in this weekend. You got less than a year, hold your hand up. You are the most important people in this room. You are. Believe me, you are. More will be revealed. Keep coming back. Get a sponsor. Get on your knees. Stick your shoes up underneath the bed at night. Say thank you at night. Pull them out in the morning. Say please in the morning. Thank you at night. I dare you. I challenge you to improve the conscious contact with your God of your understanding. He don't have to be, think of it as a group that you're praying to. Don't be so scared about God. He's going to work. You're going to lose the desire to want to get high. I promise you. The thoughts and the compulsions to want to get high get further and further apart the longer you stay clean. If you don't believe that we believe that. It'll help you get you through your first 90 days. I never had a problem with dope until I run out. I steal your dope and help you look for it. I always tell everybody, for 30-something years, I pulled this tray out from underneath my couch. And I drank and drug until I hit the floor every day of my life. When I came in here, I had to learn how to live again. Because I never lived before I got here, man. I had to teach myself how to take a shower, teach myself how to get up and have a cup of coffee and be okay without wanting to go Jones or go cop. I know you know what I'm talking about. As my sponsor says, I'm talking to Noah about the flood. When I talk to you, you understand me. People never understood me when I was using, and people don't understand me when I'm clean. They want to know why you got to go to so many classes for. You still going to them, hanging out with them drug addicts? Don't be talking about them. I found my family here. I found out just because I lost my mom, don't mean that people here don't love me. No, they love me. I didn't know that I was supposed to love myself, man. I didn't know that when I got here. Only thing I ever loved was come out from underneath that couch on that tray, man. And I drank. I want to say alcohol is a drug. Make sure you know that in your mind. Alcohol is a drug. Most people say alcohol wasn't their drug of choice, and they relapse on alcohol, and then they go back to their drug of choice. My drug of choice was yours and more. So that just takes care of everything. I also want to say you don't have to be using to be using. I can eat the same way I use drugs. I can. How much time I got? I'm about at the end. I love you all. I love you too, buddy. That right there is what keeps me going. Since I come into recovery, I'm writing a new book. It's called From Cocaine to Rogaine.